Peace, kings. Peace, queens. We're back again with hour 12 of the Amduat and our book, The Isis Thesis, out of chapter 15. The middle register in Seti I shows the Sunbark and the crew with the beetle Capri at the prow as his 12 gods and 12 goddesses tow the group through the tail and mouth of a serpent by a cord. The text states that he takes up his place on the face of the hidden image of the horn or forehead of the sky, a possible reference to the polar cusp region of horn of the earth. Then he seals up the duat, something we would not expect if the cell were in complete lysis or at burst size. The transformed god then takes his position in the eastern horizon. We learn that the 24 deities or servants in Ra's following are his product. The serpent Ankh Neturu stays in the duat. The movement through the serpent parallels tunneling, the ability of a particle to penetrate into and through classically forbidden regions. So we could say that the Sunbark is tunneling through the serpent to the extracellular exterior. This could also be compared to moving through a wormhole, for the duat displays the dynamics of a quantum mechanical Kerr black hole. In the upper register, 12 goddesses at position 1 with serpents light the way for Ra, who has passed by the hidden chamber of the sky. These goddesses bonded to serpents represent the lactose energy medium, and the hidden chamber is the prophet's site on the host chromosome. The text informs us that the goddess also drive Apoppas away, journey around the upper heavens, but remain in their places. Next are 12 adoring gods at 2, who descend to earth before Ra, rising upon the eyes of mankind in their circles. In the lower register are 2 gods at 3 and 4, and 2 goddesses at 5 and 6, followed by 4 gods with paddles at 7 through 10, a serpent at 11, 4 more paddle gods at 12 through 15, and 10 adoring gods at 16 through 25. The gods are behind the image of Osiris, or bearded mummified form that reclines on the double wall or double cell membrane. Ra journeys by this form saying, "Life, O thee, O governor of Amentet, Osiris." The final text states that he who is in this picture in the invisible form of Horus in thick darkness is the hidden image which Shu lifteth up beneath the sky, and Keb cometh forth in the earth in this image. The idea that the recombinant species is the invisible form of Horus in thick darkness suggests the generation of dark energy. Text from Ramesses VI. Hour 12 is not depicted in RVI, so Pentecost used data from the tombs of Tutmosis III and Amenophis II as well as Ramesses II and the tomb of Padmenapet. In the middle register, the sunbalk is pulled by 12 gods and 13 goddesses instead of 12 rather, in Seti I. The gate is called Exaltation of the Gods and Goddesses instead of 12. The gate is called Exaltation of the Gods and the city, outcome of the darkness. Appearance of birth. The sun god is the city, outcome of the darkness, appearance of birth. The sun god is coming out of the abyss into the body of Nut, that is, from the double meaning or double membrane bacterium, rather, into the extracellular medium. The text states that the Malachite or turquoise gods praise Ra, who take a seat in heaven. The serpent through which the sunbalk is pulled is named Life of the Gods, and he lives by the roar of the honored ones coming through him. Again, we are reminded of Pyramid Text 291 stating, "Your honor is removed, O white hole, by him who came forth from the FNT snake." Perhaps the roar of the honored ones indicate a thunder, or rather a thunder pop state that creates a white hole, restoring CPT invariance. As Strominger states, the thunder pop is required to nucleate the white hole into which the CPT reversed Hawkins radiation subsequently falls. Turquoise suggests bioluminescence, and the roar of the serpent suggests a chemical reaction of tunneling. It is also interesting that the text referring to the first group of two couples at 3 through 6 in the lower register mentions that they belong to the gate in the horizon, suggesting pouring gates represent in the two membranes of E. coli and or exit from a horizon. Of interest in the text above, the image of Osiris reclining on the end of the cell wall in the lower register, it states image of flesh, with the final text stating that this is the mysterious form of Horus in complete darkness. The text continues, stating that this form represents Shu, who supports Nut, while the great flood comes out of the earth according to this representation. The indication here is that the sunbalk and the crew are the great flood. Pentecost translates the name of the 12th god in the upper register as mistress of the Ure in the barge of millions of years. According to Pentecost, on parentheses indicate interpolations of obvious scribble omissions or additions made to clarify meaning. So if we take the translation as it is, barge of millions can easily signify the millions of escaping phase progeny from rolling replication, as does great flood. Still, it is obvious that the cell has not lysed or burst. It seems as if we had some DNA degradation and apoptosis, but the cell still lives with intact cell membrane, according to the final drawing in hour 12 and a textual reference in hour 11 about second door of thick darkness. Along with this, we have the empty mummified form of Osiris reclining on the cell wall. In hour 7, Osiris provided the protein core for head assembly, and the sun god provided the recombinant DNA. The text states that this mysterious image is Shu, derived from Shu, dry, parched, withered, empty. Shu personified the north wind and the atmosphere between earth and the sky. In addition, Shu was the immediate offspring of Atum, along with Tefnut, and separated the sky from the earth. In part 1, the barriers of Shu were equivalent to the earth's magnetosphere. The deceased sun god's birth indicates these barriers have been broken. That is, the sun god has escaped from the earth's cell or the earth's magnetosphere. With the escape into the star universe, it seems that the gravitational effects are still present and that the creation may be a form of matter or energy in early universe, albeit one will with a longer lifespan than a meson or quirk and antiquark. And that word was meson or meson. The transmembrane tunnel. Certainly questions remain here, especially related to the serpent that the sunbark travels through, tail to mouth, which is the method of releasing progeny virions instead of complete cell lysis or bursting. Researchers are currently investigating single gene lysis system and protein E, which promotes cell lysis but does not degrade the whole cell wall. However, Lubitz has observed discrete 50 to 200 nanometer holes located at the cell septum and occasionally at the poles, which prompted them to theorize that the E protein oligomerizes to form a transmembrane tunnel. The tunnel spans the entire cell envelope and releases phage progeny and other cytoplasmic contents. This transmembrane tunnel easily describes the Amduat tunnel for the sun god's barge of a million years, represents escaping recombinant phage progeny. Also, the Seti the First text explains that the sun god emerges at the horn of the sky, suggesting the polar cusp and matching the Lubitz observation of holes at the cell poles. In line with this idea, the edifice of Taharqa shows the forming beetle emerging from the sacred lake of Karnak at the northwest, which would indicate the polar cusp site of the Earth's cell or true north, a mixture of magnetic north and magnetic west. So it seems that complete cell lysis has been inhibited in some way. So that means of escape is not that degradation of whole cell walls, but escape through a transmembrane tunnel. Usually phage lambda kills the cell, but in this case it did not. Researchers have also discovered a mutant phage lambda that infects a particular mutant strand of E. coli. This lambda injects its DNA, which degrades, leaving a long stalk and globular head of the empty phage particle firmly attached to the cell surface. This seems to be what has happened in the Amduat, where the empty mummified form of Osiris finally reclines on the cell wall and the forms have swallowed themselves or degraded as the sun god is born renewed. However, these departure events also represent the folding of crow protein to its native formation in the energy landscape funnel, having the dynamics of a white hole formation / evaporation obtained as the time reverse of black hole formation / evaporation. The final text in RVI states that the great flood comes out of the earth according to this representation, which we can now understand as millions of recombinant phage progeny escaping from the host earth cell. And now we have our objective completed. The decoded meta symbols and the 12 hours of the Amduat apply to illuminate and support the model derived from the major idea strands in pyramid and coffin texts. And that brings us to an end of chapter 15. Finally, took me about 2 weeks. to get all this out, but I appreciate y'all hanging in there with me. So once again, I say peace, kings, peace, queens. I'll holler at y'all later. You heard?